My office door flung open and there she was. She was tall, she was blonde, she was desperate. I asked if she needed help. She said, of course I need help. I asked her what kind of help. She said movie help. I asked her what kind of movie. She said film noir. I told her she'd busted through the wrong door, but I knew just the guy to help her. His name was Steve Hayes, tired old queen at the movies.
Ooh, Johnny, oh, come on.
Tired old queen at the movies.
Oh, Johnny, I wanted to do another Joan Crawford movie, and so I chose 1949's Flamingo Road, directed by Michael Curtiz and starring Joan Crawford, Sidney Greenstreet, and Zachary Scott and Gladys George. Now, after Mildred Pierce, Joan Crawford had a formula. She had combined both the women's movie and the film noirs, and that was a successful formula for her for a number of years. She played a girl with a gun, but she was in a bad point in her career because she was approaching middle age. And that year, 1949, Jack Warner had finally gotten rid of Bette Davis. She was making a movie called Beyond the Forest, and she hated the movie and she left.
What a dump.
So Crawford needed a hit, and to her rescue, they shot her this novel called Flamingo Road, which was written by Robert Wilder, who later also wrote Written on the Wind. And when they made it into a film, they got Michael Curtiz, who directed Mildred Pierce. They got Jerry Wald, who produced Mildred Pierce. They got Zachary Scott, who was in Mildred Pierce. And they tried to copy Mildred Pierce in as many aspects of Flamingo Road as they possibly could. Essentially, the story is this. Crawford plays a girl who works in a carnival. Girl. She's 50. Anyway, she plays a girl who works in a carnival. And the carnival leaves town, and she wants to stay. She's tired of running around. She's tired of being a carnival girl.
But most of the times I was just a little tired and dirty.
She strikes up a friendship with a deputy sheriff in the town played by Zachary Scott, and they have sparks and things start happening. However, he's being groomed for the governorship by the sheriff of the town, who is the evil Titus Semple, played by Sidney Greenstreet. Love Sidney Greenstreet. And so basically the rest of the movie is this struggle between two huge forces, Joan Crawford and Sidney Greenstreet. He's trying to do anything to get her run out of town, and she's trying to do anything to fight for her respectability. I'm not a carnival girl.
Carnival girl?
I'm not a carnival girl anymore.
Sure been acting like it with young Carlyle.
Also in this movie, to give her like an Eve Arden character, the cast Gertrude Michael, who had been a star in the 30s and now was playing character actresses, and she plays another waitress. Joan was, again, a waitress, just like in Mildred Pierce, you know.
The job is good, and I want to keep it. I've got to keep it. Don't you understand that?
She's working her way up, Joan, and she gets a job eventually working in a roadhouse, which is run by Gladys George, who plays Ludi May. And a roadhouse was essentially, it was like a brothel, but they couldn't really say that at the time. And Gladys George was just this actress who just had this crackling voice, and she's always playing like these women who were hard as nails on the other side with a heart of gold, you know. At one point, Sidney Greenstreet is going up the stairs, and Gladys George looks at his back end and says, "You know, every time I see it, I just can't believe it." It's got these great moments. Sidney Greenstreet is absolutely incredible in this. As I had said earlier with Maltese Falcon, he had been a Shakespearean actor. He made his first movie, which was Falcon, when he was in his early 60s. And he had 10 good years at Warner Brothers in which they cast him in everything. He was one of the consummate, legendary character actors in films. And he wasn't feeling very well at this time because he was enormous, and he sweats his way through this movie. And he'll say things to Joan Crawford like,
I once had a job at a warehouse. There were rats there. I didn't pay no attention to them. One night, though, I went to sleep, and a rat near half chewed my big toe off before I knew what was happening. After that, I went around and plugged up all the holes.
You know, Sheriff, you remind me of an elephant we had in our carnival once. It attacked a trainer it had had for 15 years and had to be shot. You wouldn't realize how difficult it is to get rid of a dead elephant.
If I could be...
Joan always played variations on her own life. Girl from the wrong side of the tracks who's trying to make good. And even at this stage of her life, she was desperately trying to still maintain her stardom and to still make good, and still to be able to relate to audiences that she was just a plain, ordinary girl like they were. Nobody was ordinary who looked like Joan Crawford. She was Joan Crawford. She was a total star, a total enigma, and she created this image, and she made it work through all these movies. This movie sort of marked the end of her successful Warner Brothers career, and then she never had another hit until 1952 when she did a movie called Sudden Fear, and that catapulted her for another 5 years. She changed her image and her look 5 different times during this. I absolutely love her. I never can get enough of watching Joan Crawford.
I'm going to crucify you. You and Dan both.
You're going to tell him it was a frame-up, that Dan is innocent. Because if you don't, I'll kill you.
It's just Warner Brothers at its very, very best. And it's Joan Crawford at the height of her powers. Ladies and gentlemen, Joan Crawford, Sidney Greenstreet, Zachary Scott, and Gladys George in Michael Curtiz's Flamingo Road. Ooh.
Let's all go to the lobby. Let's all go to the lobby. Let's all go to the lobby to get ourselves a treat.
Delicious things to eat.
The popcorn can't be beat.